The most dangerous syndrome you've never heard of. It's July 18th, 2026. Welcome to YesToHellWith.com. I study human nature. It is a fascinating topic, probably one of the most important. For years I've been asking one simple question. Why do seemingly intelligent people arrive at a completely different conclusion while each is absolutely convinced that they are correct? Why does one judge see a case one way while another sees it a different way, yet both believe they are faithfully applying the law? Why do police officers, attorneys, officials, constitutional scholars, and even those in the liberty movement often disagree so completely, yet each speaks with complete confidence? I believe I've identified the answer. I call it Presumptive Certainty Syndrome. And if you'd like a report about this syndrome, join YesToHellWith.com for free and you'll get it. This is one of the most dangerous conditions affecting modern society because almost everyone suffers from it at one time or another. So what is it? Presumptive Certainty Syndrome is the tendency to reach a conclusion before sufficient inquiry has been completed, and then defending that conclusion as though it were established truth. Think about it. The problem isn't necessarily that the conclusion is wrong. The problem is that certainty arrives before proof. That means that inquiry stops, so does reflection and questions. Instead of asking, is this actually true, we actually begin asking, how do I defend what I already believe or what I've already determined with certainty? And once that happens, our minds begin filtering everything through that conclusion. We notice facts that support us. We ignore facts that challenge us. We become advocates instead of investigators. Now here's the important part. This isn't just a government problem, it's a human problem. Government employees suffer from it tremendously. Police officers suffer from it. So do judges, attorneys, professors, and liberty advocates. Even the so-called constitutional experts and gurus suffer from it. The syndrome doesn't care what side you're on. It only cares whether you've stopped asking questions. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a citizen peacefully walks into a public government building during normal business hours to conduct business. He isn't threatening anyone. He hasn't disrupted anything. An employee becomes uncomfortable and calls the police. An officer arrives already convinced that something must be wrong. He immediately begins demanding identification, answers, and explanations. Notice what happened? The officer began with a conclusion. He assumed government authority before first determining whether the facts actually justified exercising that authority. Now, let's look at another officer who arrives at the exact same scene. But instead of beginning with commands, he begins with questions. What happened? Has anyone been threatened? Has the citizen interfered with government operations? What law applies? What facts create authority to act? Only after answering these questions does he determine whether any government authority actually exists. He has the same office, the same badge, the same situation, but he arrives at a completely different conclusion based upon a different methodology. One officer began with certainty, with ego. The other began with inquiry, with humility. That is the difference between presumptive certainty syndrome and disciplined reasoning, and I would add humility. Now think about how often this happens in everyday life. Someone reads a headline and reaches a conclusion. A lawyer reads one case and believes the matter is settled. A government employee assumes a policy automatically applies. A patriot hears one speaker and accepts the theory without testing it. A constitutional scholar repeats what has always been taught. Everyone becomes certain. Very few remain curious. That's why within the Liberty Dialogue system, we don't begin with conclusions. We begin with questions. What is the authority? What is the jurisdiction, status, standing, obligation? And what evidence establishes the obligation? And only after those questions have been answered do we permit ourselves to reach a conclusion. The Liberty Dialogue system is designed to interrupt Presumptive Certainty Syndrome before it takes control of any reasoning that should be involved. Because liberty doesn't depend upon loud opinions, it depends upon disciplined inquiry. The next time someone tells you this is the law, or this is how it works, or you have to do this, don't immediately argue. Don't immediately agree. Instead, ask the question that restores disciplined thinking. How do we know that? That single question may be the beginning of wisdom, and it may be the first step toward restoring constitutional government. And as always, may truth reign supreme.